Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Property Hustler Show. My name is Andrew, and today Ping and I are joined by Rose Prasad. She is a real estate investor both in Canada, the States, and the Caribbean. She's also a realtor serving the Eastern Ontario area, and she is a recent mother doing all of this at the same time while growing her real estate portfolio. Today's in this conversation, we're going to be talking about how she's accomplishing all these things, how she is investing remotely, and also how she is serving her clients effectively using all her experiences and everything she knows as a realtor. So Rose, great to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, Andrew and Ping.
So Rose, you have a multiple different portfolio, not just in Canada only, you're also in the US, Florida, right? For short-term rental, you also have another one in the Dominican Republic, right? Can we just talk about it, like how this journey started in the very beginning?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think where it started is, way back when I was a student and I came to Canada. So at that point I was on, my uncle's couch. I was kind of lost and not knowing what's ahead for me coming out of high school. And so where it all began was I got the opportunity as a student and accepted here in Canada. And so for me it was, whoa, Canada's big. Coming from a small country in Ghana in South America, it was really big. And it was also at a point where I didn't have no direction. I didn't have my family by my side, and I didn't know what I was doing personally. So for me, it was, what's next? And so when I heard about that, it was like land of opportunities for me. Canada is the place for me, and how can I utilize this to make it towards my best advantage? So I left there, moved here about when I was 19, and then slowly just got into the system on finding a job and how to survive here in Canada as a student, and also working multiple jobs. But I think what was most fascinating was it was that just hunger inside that, coming from a family of nothing and really wanting to do better and wanting to be that person for myself. And then I quickly realized, because I started school as an accountant, and I quickly realized I didn't want to be on a desk job. And I knew there was a cap in the salary. So for me, it was like right away, what could be that next income strategy that I can still continue to work corporate and build my career here in Canada, but also create that extra passive income? And that was at 25. Again, no guidance, no coach, no nothing, what real estate looks like in Canada. And that was 5 years as an immigrant. So for me, at that point, I started. And it was like, okay, how do we do this? So again, no experience, no education, no coach, none of that. And we acquired our first property, which was a 2-bedroom condo. And that was my first primary res. So after I got in, obviously saved up, got some equity, and we decided that, what's next for us? So we bought 3 other properties after that. So fast forward to 30, we were 10 properties under our belt. My boyfriend at the time, my husband now. And so we were managing all these properties. We were still going about our full-time job. And this was working for us to a point where it became really stressful because we were doing it all ourselves, right? And so we still continued to pivot differently, but at some point we were slowly letting go of these properties because we wanted to focus more on our relationship and starting a family at that time. And
What year was that?
I was 30, so that one 41. So that was like, I would say 10 years ago or...
No, by the way, you do not look 41.
Yeah, and that's kind of where we put pause to it, going, you know what, it's time for us now. We've kind of got into the game. Financially, we're doing really well. We have really great careers working for us. At the time, he made it to, manager role. I made it to manager role, and we were doing well. So we were like, we need to now start a family. And that's kind of where this whole thing went about real estate. And so we wanted to slow down again, because with limited knowledge, we didn't thought, we can still go big on this if we continue to go this, because for us, it was more, we didn't want to deal with the stress. We just wanted to slow down and focus on building a family. And then slowly we start to sell everything. And obviously I regret doing that now. So if I had to say what I could have done better or what I could have done differently, was just to hold on to those properties. But anyways, we learned through the process. Fast forward to where we are now, hit the reset button in 2021 when my little one was born. And obviously we have sold everything and capitalized a little bit on the income that we had saved up, and just was passively investing those mutual funds and other funds that could just give us a return at that point. And then 2021, when I quit my full-time job, when my son was born, I was like, I'm not going back. to corporate. This is it for me. I was going to go full real estate. So 2021, I quit my full-time job when he was born. And 2022, we start scaling up. So we bought our first pre-construction in Calgary in 2022. And I was like, Calgary? I've never been to Calgary. Why Calgary? But why Calgary for me was, and I think a lot of investors know this, it's so landlord friendly over there, low cost of living. The price to acquire a condo, a 2-bedroom condo, was little to nothing. And then ever since then, it's appreciated. Now we're in 2024. And that city has grown so much in terms of, tech moving in there, and also with a lot of Ontarians moving to Calgary. So Calgary was that for us. In that mix, we also acquired Florida from some of the monies we had saved up in terms of what we had acquired over the years. We bought a short-term rental in Florida, in Orlando, Walt Disney. And we've now held on to that property, has been managing it for about 4 years in the short-term space. And I think learning through that process, I've gained a lot of exposure in terms of the short-term rental, but also to what it's like as a Canadian to manage a property that's remote, but not just remotely, but it's also in another country. And in this case, in the U.S. So a lot of rules when it comes to taxation, understanding, setting up your tax. So we both pay taxes both in the U.S. and Canada. And then so after going through that experience for me was like, okay, I think I know enough in the business, but I'm still continuing to grow. And then the opportunity for Punta Cana came up. Punta Cana, why? was we love vacationing. And I think one of the most beautiful beaches there is out there. When people say Miami has one of the most beautiful beaches, I always challenge that because I've been to Miami and I've seen it. And when you compare Miami to Punta Cana in terms of affordability, in terms of booming into tourism, and being able to buy something that is in a growing sector in terms of tourism, I think it's basically a slam dunk. So we saw this condo. It was 10 minutes away from the beach, and we were like, let's do it. So that is going to be ready at the end of this year. So I'm in the final stage of just trying to get everything tied up to basically get that rolled out and get it on the road.
You know what, Rose, one thing that I really want to mention, especially also in this podcast, is that you have something that most people don't have, which is courage. When you think about something makes sense and you take action right away. We've been working together for a while now. And I noticed that that's one thing that you have just no problem about. It's just like, okay, this makes sense. Let's execute. And the next thing you know, you collect lots of data. Like, oh, this worked, this didn't work, right? And then you're able to talk about your experience in a very extensive way.
Yeah. But I would say though, Ping, it didn't come that naturally. It didn't come that quick because starting off, I remember crunching. It's like they talk about, you get analysis paralysis, right? You don't know what you're doing. You're crunching the numbers. You're kind of breaking this down and you're thinking this is the right direction or this is the right deal for you. And I think over years, you've learned through your mistakes. You've learned through this process. And now you have so many people and network that you're educating yourself on this process. So I would say, you know what? My confidence level as an investor has really upped in my game that I can instantly look at a deal and say, you know what? Let's crunch the number. And if it makes sense, let's do this. So going back to that, my husband has not seen the second property we've purchased yet. Only reason because he has such great trust in me and what I do. And I know that it's, again, we're partnership in this. But he allows me to make those decisions because he trusts my judgment. And so, every single deal that I do, yes, we crunch it together. We run the numbers together. But I think it's having that confidence in me that I know what I'm doing to go forward with it.
I was going to ask, did he know that you put in an offer?
No, he did not know that I put in an offer. He did not know that I was looking at a property. That's number one. And two, he did not know that I put in the offer. And this, how it happened so quickly was I had actually my client who actually just firmed up on a deal with me. I was showing them a property and I told them there's this properties. I didn't tell them the details, but I said this property is accepting offer and the deadline's 5 p.m. And we're wrapping up our last showing at 4:30 and I have to get to this offer. And I'm like, I'm going to get to it. So I got here and I'm like just going at it. Did not just sit in my office and literally just typing everything through and send it at like literally 4:57 before 5 o'clock. And there were 4 competing offers with mine. So that was the story going into the second purchase. Like, it was insane.
Which is the most recent purchase?
So the most recent purchase is a single family home on the west end of Belleville. And this property is interesting because there was an addition to it. And when I walked through it, I basically just kind of look at the potential. So first of all, the price for the west end and the appreciation in that area, I couldn't find anything that basically what I got it for that was lined up to the number. So the reason I say this was a good deal was everything was above 450, 490. And so I thought to myself, okay, they're holding offers at 409. What are the chances that this is going to go over 450? Right? So let's just really go at this because I know it's always in the buy. So I'm like, okay, what is my number? Because I'm not going to go in at 450 knowing that there's 4 more offers on the table. But then if I do this, there's still opportunity for me to actually have this deal in a good place. But if I can get it for less, it would be even better. So I was like, okay, we're going to go in at 435. And then I crunch the numbers on my commission and I go 425 less 10K, 435 less 10K, we're at 425, 425 it is. So I went in at 435 and they did not blink with my deal. So they texted me back saying, we're working with your number. And I was like, this is it. There's no turning back. So this property, why I say it's interesting enough, because when I saw it, it was an addition to it. It had a front entrance with a living room. It had a side entrance, which basically leads down to the basement. And it had an addition that the seller currently put on with a separate entrance. So when you dissect this, you basically can make it a triplex and it could work. It's just coming up with the capital to actually make it a triplex. But for right now, I'm actually only going to be doing it student rental for a year until I'm ready to actually take on a triplex conversion, because this is not just playing in the ball, like basically in the play field. This is taking it to the next level for me, because as much as it is, I just converted the duplex conversion and I've learned a ton about it. I think I still need to kind of really take my time and thread lightly to really prepare this to a place that I'm going to be confidently know that I'm going to succeed at it.
And what municipality is this, by the way?
This is in Belleville.
This is in Belleville. Okay.
Yeah.
I've written down now like a slew of questions. Like, you've done so much. Ping illustrated it correctly when he says that you have something that a lot of people don't, which is the courage. I almost kind of wanted to ask you, where does all the confidence come from? But you obviously have a whole array of years of experience behind you that is really backing your confidence. When you said that you've invested in so many multiple places, because I know people are going to wonder, you've invested in Alberta, you've invested in the Caribbean, you've invested in the States. It doesn't scare you to invest, even a little bit closer, but in municipalities that are further away from you. Emotionally, what do you think is the biggest struggle, or maybe the difference if somebody wants to, let's say, invest in Ontario versus, let's say, Alberta to Florida? Because, is investing in Alberta, because you're still not checking on the property over there.
Yeah.
You're not the one going there. Is it much different mentally, emotionally to invest in Alberta than it is to invest in the States? Great
question. So for me, I think a lot of the confidence around investing not within proximity of 2 or 3 hours of where you live and can be outreach to the property, I think a lot of it is really instilled of when I actually purchased Orlando in Florida, because that has allowed me to be about 3.5 hours out. But I think the one biggest thing was ensuring that the property was in the good hands of a property management company. That one, I can have full transparency in what's going on. And two, even ever so often, once a year, I'm still going to be there quality checking and making sure that everything's running well. So having that confidence and the experience on this first property, I think for me is I can buy real estate anywhere. Once I have now that team that's built up and the right people that I can trust, I think this is possible no matter where you go. To add to this, actually, I was in Dubai in April, and I did want to look at a few properties in Dubai. Not that it was a Dubai, but who wouldn't want to be in Dubai and own a rental investment? But, with 16, 17 hours away from Canada, specifically from Toronto, and being a new mom, again, about the distance, but it was just the culture and a little bit more to what was happening there. I think it wasn't so much in tune who I am and what I know. And that's why I was like, okay, still doesn't scare me, but I'm like, I don't think this is for me. Just that, I just was like, yeah, this 250,000, you can own a 1-bedroom about 30 minutes from the Burj. But it was just like, it's a sweet of a deal, but I don't think Dubai is for me. Yeah.
You already have enough experience to be able to trust that intuition, right? Whereas a lot of people, when they're first getting into real estate, they get so overly excited about one opportunity and they just jump in. So I think right now, trusting your intuition is actually part of the process.
Yes.
And also, like you mentioned, the moment that you can get used to the remote investing idea, you can scale up anywhere as long as you can believe in the city, the market, obviously the number that you're seeing.
Exactly. And honestly, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that does everything go 100% of how you want it? No, I am constantly in communication with my property management companies, or, with how the guest felt of, if there was a bad review or whatever the situation is. So I feel like it's also, really building that rapport with this company. And it's like anything else, right? Having that relationship that really goes, because here's the thing, we're all in this business to make money, and so sometimes it goes way beyond money when you have that trust and you have that confidence in the people that you're doing business with. And that to me is like, when I meet someone and I say right away, this is the person. So it's like perfect example when I met my realtor out in Calgary. When I bought this pre-construction, it was like going in, I have never been to Calgary. I don't even know where this property is sitting. What if it's in a dump somewhere and I don't even know? I'm going to show up and I'm not geographically, because there's only so much you can do on Google. And because it's so new, there's nothing there. So I was like, I called her and I said, listen, I know there's not commission to be made on this deal, but I can make it happen for you. So here's what I need. I need your help to really go down to Truman and this property out in Calgary and check out this location for me to make sure that it's one, legit, and everything else around it, it's up and coming, right? So it's like, I physically didn't go there and fly there to waste my time, but I had someone boots on ground to really give me the scoop, to really say, you know what, we're not going to hesitate on this. We just need to do our sort of 20%, in this case now, due diligence to move forward with this deal, and then just let it be. And, she went there, she took a video, she told me everything about it, how it looks, where it's going to go. And I'm like, done, right? And ever since then, her and I's been in such great communication that I'm actually going to put her in hands of managing my property out in Calgary. And she's willing to do that with me. So.
Did you ever meet her in person?
No, I've never met her in person.
Never met in person. Okay, here's a question that a lot of people will have, especially when it comes to building out a team and starting to invest remotely, right? And this seems to be like, I think, an anchoring point of something that you are apparently good at, is being able to put a team together. There's a degree of intuition there. But now you're essentially entrusting somebody else to guide a pretty significant purchase of you for you. You're going to spend a pretty significant amount of money to acquire a property over there that you haven't seen and that you're trusting with somebody who you also haven't met. So how do you bridge that gap? Like, what is it that tells you this person is somebody I'm going to trust?
Honestly, it's hard to explain. I think it's like when I met Ping. You just get that real person. For me, it was like, when someone's shitting you, I'm sorry, but like, you just get that person. When you connect with that person in such an intimate level, I feel like, why wouldn't you want to do business with them? And being a realtor, I feel like I'm not going to be for everyone, but the people that I'm connecting with are the people that really appreciate what I do and what I bring to the table, right? So it's hard to explain, because yes, I could have gone and looked at 5,000 other realtors in Calgary to see who would be the right one for me, right? But I was like, no, I've had conversations with her. We've had Zoom calls. We've talked about our kids, where we're going and things like that. And we connected on so much level that I feel like it felt right. And the fact that she was an investor and she owned over 80 properties that she's managing herself right now gave me a lot of confidence, because she knows what she's doing, right? So right there for me was like, hands down, let's go, right? So, and then I'm going through this phase right now in sort of how I go about this, because now for me, it's like, if I talk the language that other investors are talking, I feel like they understand my business model. They understand who I am. And yes, they're going to try their best to get me to where I need to be. And so it's the same strategy I'm taking into Punta Cana, because I'm partnering as well with an investor who are in the short-term rental space that I have trust and communication with, that I know is going to really put in and do their best to make me happy and my property to be successful. So for me, it's like, it's not just picking up the random people. It's really going after people who's been in this business that have been successful, that can relate to who I am, right? And it's not just, nothing against the property management companies out there that are doing this, but if you haven't invested into real estate yourself and understand what it requires to run a successful business, I think for me, it's like, I always am hesitant. And that's why it goes back to working with a realtor that is experienced as I am in the real estate space, but how I can give you or share some experience that I've gone through to make your investment strategy or investment journey a little bit better. And that is why my mission as a real estate agent is to be able to do that and to help my clients to navigate through, not just on the residential side, but mostly on the investor side as well.
Yeah, you're super qualified. Like
I wouldn't say that.
That's an understatement, honestly.
yeah. And here's the thing: a lot of people are trying to like be the investor-focused agent, right? They try to analyze the numbers, right? You didn't even do that. You went through the whole process of building up your portfolio up to like 10 properties, thinking it's a little too stressful, offload it, rebuild it back up, and now not just in Toronto or Ontario, now you're in Calgary, you're international, and then you're like, okay, now I have enough knowledge about investment. Now let me see if I can provide some services to people who are trying to accomplish the same thing.
Exactly. And I think it wasn't so much the shiny object of, well, yes, Punta Cana, who wouldn't want to be in Punta Cana to, spend their vacation and their time away? But it was more of, for me, is analyzing the numbers. We know in the last 5 years what the real estate market has gone through here in Canada. And so if I do have that capital sitting, for me, it was like, where do I find the right deal, right? And because I know that I've gone through this remotely, I feel like I can do this somewhere else, still be profitable, but most importantly, be able to take my family on vacations as well, especially in the short-term space. So I think there's a benefit there and a trade-off, right, of how you look at it, the value you're getting, and make it as fun as possible.
Yeah, it's not shiny object syndrome, but these places seem shiny.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so Rose, let me ask a question then. You've been literally going through multiple different places. Right now, you're kind of focusing on on Belleville.
Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about like how that journey kind of turned back into the Ontario investing? Why did you pick that market as your sort of I guess a scaling point?
Yeah.
And what can you talk about this market?
Oh, absolutely. So we went through this during COVID, and this was something that I was on my husband for like constantly. And of course, with who I am and just being determined and always wanting to get what I want, I'm like, babe, have you seen this market? Have you seen the potential? So we've looked at quite a few places. We've looked at the West End in London. We've looked at the East End. And we knew that at this point, starting over and scaling quickly as we wanted to, we needed the extra capital, right? And who wouldn't want to invest in a city that's growing, has a diverse population of people, specifically around job opportunities, and also proximity between Toronto and Ottawa. So for me, it was like 2.5 hours in. Prices are affordable. You can find a single family home for at least an average of 500 plus and onwards. But also too, with the growing population and economy growth within Belleville, for me, it was an easy decision. And the second piece of it was being able to grow my real estate business. In a saturated market, and also where there's so many realtors, and the city is growing, more and more people are moving in. And for me, it was like, how do I really, with my expertise and what I've done, really outshine in a smaller city where I think, for one, it would allow me to scale quicker because of the price point. And two, I can actually be seen out here as a realtor and who I am and what value I bring. It was really clear to me that it was only two reasons. Belleville being where it's at and how quickly it's growing and how diverse it is in terms of, manufacturing company. Like we just had Amazon that opened up their manufacturing and warehouse here last year. With the constant growth and a job opportunity here, as well as this growing city, I think why wouldn't you not want to move to Belleville? It was crystal clear for me. It wasn't as if we're going to just go there and figure it out. It was doing your homework and really figuring out how is this going to work for you. And because the price point from a real estate investing standpoint for me was so lucrative, you can buy a fixer-upper brick bungalow between 400 and 450 with good ceiling height and convert it into a duplex with about 100K plus. Why wouldn't you want to take this opportunity? Because you can't get anything else anywhere else in the city for this price point.
What
right?
what are regular rents like over there?
So for a fully converted duplex, which is either side by side or a upper or lower, for a 3-bed, 1-bath is around 22, 23 based on the renovations and the finishes. But it starts between 21 and 23 plus utilities. And for the lower level 2-bedroom plus a bath, that starts at around 1850, but could also go up to 2100.
Just so the audience can actually have a bit of a reference point, Belleville's current real estate market price is very similar to Hamilton back in around like 2017. Okay,
Yeah.
400, 500K, you can find a property that can do a duplex conversion, an ADU in the basement. Back then though, I want to point this out, back then, our average rent was 1,800, roughly 1,800 to 2,000 for top floor, 3-bedroom, like everything you just described. Bottom floor, so like the basement is roughly around 1,400. So it does look at the rent is higher. Real estate prices around 400, 500K meets 1% rule if you think about it.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And also you have a lot of flexibility to do conversions, like all the things that the Toronto investors are trying to do. But over there, they need to do that to make the cash flow work. Whereas
Exactly.
in your case, you can rent it out as a student rental and then plan for duplex or triplex conversion.
Exactly. And for me, it was like pivoting differently. So like I mentioned, going through the first duplex conversion, and of course, construction costs and renovation costs is the highest, right? So if you have a person that is on your team or you have built yourself to that level where, the cost obviously is way below what the contractor, what partnership you have, let's say with a JV partner or someone else, then with the price point that you're buying and the rent guarantee that the city is going through right now, there's no guessing. Like the proof is here. You can see it. So why wouldn't you not want to run the numbers and invest into the city? Right. So for me, it was like, okay, yes, I've gone through it. I've gone through it because I don't have a contractor or a contracting team that I've put together. Maybe in the future I will get there. But for right now, everything is outsourced. So looking at the contractor cost, buying at a certain price, and then still factor in appraised value, you're still coming out positive. So even if you swing the number left, right, or center, like you're not going to lose in this deal, no matter how you go about it. And so going back to your point on the student rental, there's so many avenues you can go about this, right? Because even the new construction right now that are selling in Belleville, a 3-bed, 3-bath townhome that are selling for a price point at $499 in a new constructed, family developed area. You as an investor can still purchase that 20% down and not cash flow a whole bunch, but the appreciation that will come with buying a new pre-construction in a developed area that has the potential later down the road for long-term appreciation, you can still do that here. Where can you buy a pre-construction townhome 3-bed, 3-bath for $499? Almost nowhere in Toronto, right? So going back to the variety of potential properties right? You have your brick bungalows that you can convert into your duplex and do a value add. You have your pre-constructions, which are relatively at a really great price that you as an investor can still get in if you're not willing to do the whole construction renovation cost and just, push your line in on the appreciation. And then you have the single residential that, is your first time home buyer or just your regular consumer that are looking to move around in the city or relocating into the city. So the price point, I think, and the affordability with what Belleville has to offer, it's not going to stay here obviously forever. it's like anywhere else. More and more people are moving into the city. And so house prices and the inventory is like anywhere else, is going to start to be a concern. But where we're at right now and the price point that you're buying, I don't think you can find it anywhere else. And this is not a sales pitch. It's just, this is reality. This is reality because I'm here and I can tell you, and this was one of the reasons why I moved here. And I'm so passionate about it. I enjoy, going to the West End and, even further out in the East End. But Kingston is just an hour away, but you can't find anything that will give you the return that you have here in Belleville, even though it's an hour away.
Yeah, most important things that you have also pulled the trigger twice before you started talking about all the knowledge or all the information you just shared.
When you're talking about student rentals, you're buying things within proximity to Loyalist College?
Yes. Loyalist College, proximity to the college, but also proximity to the bus terminal because, again, Belleville is a very small city, right? You can easily get around almost every single retail store or mall within minutes or within seconds. So yes, your bus system is also small because we're not talking about Toronto and bigger city, but your time, it varies between 25 to 30 minutes, which is average, getting from point A to point B using bus transit because there is a transit system here that runs directly from the bus terminal to Loyalist College. And not just Loyalist College, we also have Albert College, which is a private college institution here in Belleville.
Oh, that looks great. By the way, I think people need to really also remember that the further away you go from Toronto or some of the mega junctions, the differential in the rent prices that you get on either a per room, per apartment, per house basis is really not proportionate to the price of the property, right? So when you get a significant discount on the real estate itself, it's not like you're taking a big axe to the rents, right? The rents are not that drastically different from other places relative to the purchase price of the property. And the other thing that strikes me as very interesting, as I was just perusing and looking at some of the listings, because everything is in around that 500,000 mark, it seems to be stimulating a lot of first-time home buyers or people who want to put 5% down.
Exactly.
On these properties.
Exactly. And there's a lot of property. And that's why I reference back to that 500,000 mark, because that is the sweet spot right now. And anything below that obviously needs a little bit of work, a fixer-upper, or have the potential to be, a value add project. So whichever way you swing it, based on your purchase price or how much you're trying to put down, it will work for you. Because a first-time home buyer trying to get in with something that is still nicely renovated at 500,000, it's still possible.
Yeah. You know what? If you think about it, picture your typical person in Toronto right now, somebody looking to buy a condo, right? Right now, condos are hurting in prices in Toronto. So you can pick stuff up anywhere from 500, 700,000, right? Somewhere in there. But these are small condos that you can potentially buy. Maintenance fees, all that stuff, living with other people. You look at some of these houses here in Belleville, they're in and around that $500,000 price point. If somebody has the opportunity to do some kind of remote work, I can see why this would interest them. And, if you think about the current traffic situation, people who are on the west side of Toronto who are just like, I want to visit my family on the east side, it's taking them an hour and a half, 2 hours to go there. I mean, at that point, if you go further away, at least the driving you have is going to be a lot smoother and maybe a little less frustrating. But the fact that you can buy a house, like for context, if you're putting 5% down, you're spending about $20,000 to buy property, right? Like $25,000 if you want to buy a $500,000 property as a down payment.
Exactly. And, just going through with people that I've met and, just networking out here, there is still a lot of people that commute to go to work in Toronto. And so a lot of people think about, well, it's too far and it's 2 hours and a half in from Toronto. But here's the thing, exactly how you said it, right? If you're able to work remotely 2 or 3 days a week, and the benefit is here for you to own a property that you're putting little to no money down, and it's still your home and you own it and it's going to continue to appreciate in a market that's continuing to grow, why would you not still consider that 3 day a week, hybrid and still, work from home 2 days a week and make it work? So more and more people that I've talked to are still doing that. And for them, it's like, no, we do it all the time. And for me, it's like, even though I'm still new here, and sometimes, yes, driving out from Belleville to Toronto, it is a distance. I'm not going to lie. But I feel like if you actually look at the benefit over driving 2.5 hours, and you're not doing this on a consistently basis, why would you sweat it? It's a drive out of the city that maybe it's, you could go to your favorite restaurant that you've been dying for, in Toronto, and it's something to look forward to that you really won't feel it. You know what I mean? So to me, it's like looking at it in that perspective. It's like a getaway for most of the time for me when I'm going away to see family or wanting to have to, maybe meet a client or do something outside of Belleville. But the drive doesn't scare me at all.
I understand, because just for context, again, driving from Belleville to Toronto, according to Google Maps, is 2.5 hours. Driving from St. Catharines to Toronto is 2 hours and 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like we're talking about a 15
But driving from St. Catharines, coming in for one all the way down to Toronto versus, you still hit on the East End, you still hit, up until you hit Oshawa. Like that will still be your pain point. But really after that, you're kind of, because there are still cities that are well developed, but after that, it's like, it's a breeze, right? So even thinking about St. Catharines into Toronto, like you still can't get through Mississauga and Brampton traffic to get to Toronto for 2 hours. So when I say the least 2.5 hours, like sometimes I'm swinging 1 hour and 45, but that's not like I'm driving crazy, but that's just because it's on the road.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Like, honestly.
You know what I mean? So when you tell people this, they go, what, you must be driving like crazy. But I'm like, no, it's just because the time of the day, and you really have to like understand this, just before Oshawa. After that, it's like, you don't even have to sweat it.
Yeah, exactly.
So even though you're coming in from St. Catherine it's 2 hours, but it's not going to be realistically in 2 hours coming in the traffic on the West End.
Yes, absolutely. Thing is, people, I think a lot of people in Toronto, when they think of St. Catharines, they don't think of it as too weird and as in too odd to say, okay, I'm going to move there. They don't think of it as a great distance. And that's the thing. It's like Belleville, from my perspective, Belleville and St. Catharines is not too far off in terms of like potentially having to travel. In fact, I would argue that the drive is nicer. But even then, taking all that outside, speaking about it from an investment perspective, I know that people are also trying to figure out how to invest in places like Hamilton, St. Catharines, to buy property with 5% down, and they're trying to buy investment properties. And from what it is that you're saying, and even from what I'm looking at, it seems that this is also quite a significant option for people to do in places like Belleville.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's regardless of how you go about it, there is a significant gain to, whatever it is, if it's you're relocating or you're, looking to, with just a little bit of capital that you have to buy a place, even for your family to relocate here. I think however else you turn it, there is still so much opportunity here in the city. And I'm going to say this out loud. It's not going to last forever. Prices are starting to go up. Appreciation from the last 2 years, what we've seen. And then with growing population here in the city, more and more people are coming into Belleville for relocation purposes, which, by the way, I forgot to mention, you have the military turnover, which is just a city away. Trenton, which is 15 minutes away from Belleville. More and more military families are relocating here. People are moving in and some are moving out. Every year between May and July, there is a massive amount of posting of people that are moving in and out of the city. So whether it's you're figuring out the percentage of, is it more that's coming in than more than's leaving? Well, no one's going to know that. But with the amount of relocation that's going on just in the military field, it's exponential just in that space.
Yeah, I think the city really offers not just a home ownership for single family, like you mentioned. It's also like for anybody who doesn't feel like they want to live 2-3 hours out from Toronto. It's still a really good place to start investing because the number just makes sense. And then because in cash flows, and you just wait for that appreciation to happen in the next like 3 to 5 years while renting in downtown Toronto. That way you'll offset some of the rent. And you'll give you a bit of a financial planning for the future. So
exactly. And a good point to point out as well is, thinking if you are thinking to get into the real estate market as an investor, and for the amount of clients that we have and a lot of the people that are investing here in Belleville, I'm not afraid to tell you that majority of them are coming in from Toronto because of the potential of finding the deal and really making the numbers work here. So we also are looking at that because yes, what you can do here, you obviously can't do it there with the price point. And you can so make it work here, regardless of, even if you want to hold on to this property for a year, right? Because I've had investors who out from Toronto, bought a duplex for 430, converted it, put some money into it, held on to it for a year, for just over a year, and sold it for 620. So it's like just in a year, because they've wanting to move around, or their family situation have changed for whatever reason. But just in that short time, you can still make money, with the potential, and having that game plan on what you're looking for is really comes down to what your investment strategies are and what you're looking to buy. And for me, it's like anyone that are looking to start out in real estate and real estate investing with little to no amount of capital is looking at Belleville and looking at the property. Because, like, for example, a deal just got pitched to us last week from a bank sale, right? A semi-detached, a bank sale that's listed for $350. And right away, your investor had like just goes on going, okay, what can you do with this property, a 3-bed, 1-bath for $350?
Anything.
Right? 5 minutes for 10 minutes, walking distance to the bus. Like, right away, it's a no-brainer. While you can sit there trying to pitch this to a first-time home buyer, and maybe it will be the right property for them at the right price point. But from an investor standpoint, it's like, again, going back, what can you buy for $350 and still make money off of it?
You can do so much with that. It's crazy. By the way, it's crazy because if you can buy an old Honda, like a medium kilometer Honda Civic, you can buy that house, right? Because again, with 5% down, it'll cost you $17,000. And then we're not even talking about all the densification initiatives, right? Like how people are totally municipalities are generally more accepting of the densification initiatives, where they will allow for duplexing, they will allow for maybe triplexing in certain areas. So even if you bought it, lived in it, went through the permits, upgraded it, and then made it into a legal duplex, you've increased your property value significantly, and financeability improves. There's just so many options, right?
It's endless possibilities, is what I say.
Okay, so what's your commission that you're getting from Belleville? Because you're obviously promoting them, right?
I'm not getting anything. For me, it's like I chose the city because, one, I think I believed in it, but two, it's like I know that this was, for me long term, and growing my family here, I think I'm fully invested in Belleville, and this is why you just fall in love with the city and you just want to tell everybody about it, So that's really where I'm at with this. Like any other city, right? You have the negatives, you have the pros, you have the cons. I think if you look at the pros and not so be hung up on the con, because I'm not going to tell you that Belleville is, like the perfect city out there, right? There's things that are in every single city that, you have to consider, and you have to have some hesitation. But if you look at the pros outweigh the cons. And to me, it's like, look at the bigger picture.
Okay, so quick couple questions here. What neighborhood did you live in before you moved to Belleville?
So I lived in north of Toronto, about 45 minutes into Georgina. So that's cottage country.
Got it. Okay, perfect. And most of your friends were, I guess.
Yeah, but before that, I lived in Toronto, North York, and Vaughan. So for me, it was like family on the West End, primarily in North York, the Vaughan area.
Okay. I want to quickly address what happens when anybody from Toronto or in and around the Toronto area, what happens to the people around them when you start telling them that, hey, I'm considering going to or investing into a place like this. What is their reaction?
So I think their first reaction is, it's too far. I get that all the time. And whether you're buying to relocate or whether you're looking at this as a potential investment, location, I think people just underestimate the time or make this as a number one reason as to why they wouldn't invest into the city, right?
It's a big hurdle, which we already addressed in the beginning of this conversation, that you have overcome that exact hurdle. Actually, I know that you mentioned previously that one of your biggest things that you've taken from some of your previous experiences is not doing everything yourself and building out your team. And I think if you're the type of person who has already made the decision that even if you buy a house in Toronto, if you're the type of person who lives on the east side and just like, I'm never visiting my property on the west side, it's almost the same thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's almost the
100%.
same thing. So
Yep.
why not invest further? But whenever we talk to people who are interested in either moving to or investing in someplace else where the numbers make sense, the blowback that they get, especially from people in Toronto, is like, oh, why would you go there? People are just like, Belleville, ugh. And they're like,
Yeah.
when I first started investing in Hamilton, people were just like, Hamilton, why would you invest there? And even now, when we're looking at certain U.S. cities, like right now, we are doing a lot of work in Cleveland, and people are just like, Cleveland, why? But it's always the same people
Yes.
who will
Yes.
naysay to those opportunities.
Yeah.
And it's more often than not the people who wouldn't accomplish what you're accomplishing.
Exactly. And I think they make to me is you're making an excuse. I'm sorry. You're making this a problem for you to actually be successful. And everything is a problem when you look at it. You know, as investors, we go through so much problems every single day. What's one more to add to the pile? Because look at the long-term gain, you know, and this is something for me was a really great learning experience, because having to reset and start over, one of my biggest pain point of working a full-time job and managing 10 properties at that point was it was so stressful, eating away your time, eating away, you know, every single mental space you had by not putting a team together and really pivoting differently, because your education level at that point, you were so new to this. The easiest thing was to sell the property and just get rid of it, because why? You think you got rid of the problem, right? But now it's like when I got back into it, it's the problem have actually compounded. It's more than I actually was before, because now I'm in value add space, and it's doing the project management, it's finding the deal, is, you know, managing the contractors, managing the financial aspects, closing, like everything. So for me, it was like, I thought I had problem managing single family and getting rid of one problem, which was maybe on the tenant side and just managing everything. But now my problems become bigger. And for me, it's like, that's the challenging thing in real estate, because this is what keeps me going. If I'm to think about the problem and not the solution of where I want to be and what I want to achieve, I won't be sitting here. I absolutely won't be sitting here. And my husband asks me every day, why are you doing this? This is just stressing you out. And I'm like, listen, I'm doing this because I'm so passionate about who I am, what I want to achieve in life, and most importantly, to actually build a foundation for my family and my kids. So when I look on the why and continuing to just put this in front of me, I think everything else just becomes so easy, even though there's so many shit that happens behind the scene. But like, you just got to focus on why you're doing it, right? And you know, in the long run, it's going to make sense for you, because you want to create that lifestyle for you and your family. Who doesn't want to, you know, be in that space? And not everyone. So going back to starting off as an investor and not having anything, you're contemplating on, you don't have the capital, or you are not educated to start. Well, I start coming in as an immigrant. And if I can do it, anyone can.
I think, you know, arguably maybe being an immigrant is an advantage. I feel that there's a difference in the perception of problems, right? And sometimes people aren't willing to move around the problems. They just want to stay there with the problems. Like when I hear people talk about, I still have friends or less more distant friends that will talk about the unaffordability in the market. And then when we touch on investments, like, hey, why don't you start getting into investing in some real estate? It's like, do you know how much things cost? Nothing makes sense anymore, this or that, and all these excuses, when really it's like as simple as, if the market isn't conducive to your needs, change the market.
Exactly. You have to pivot. Exactly. You have to. And this is something we all know this going through in the last 5 years. You've just had to pivot differently. And for the next 5, we're still going to have to continue to do that. So my other thing was, because I know our real good intention going through this was also to getting me obviously on here. But because I also want to stress a little bit too on what the property hustlers have done, because I have to say, like, if I did meet you guys, especially Ping, and communicate and really get to know this community, honestly, I wouldn't say I wouldn't be taking action. It just enforced me and really propelled me to really take action, because I knew that I had to take action. It's just I'm sitting here going, and then when when I got the first deal, I'm like, Ping, you're not going to kill me, right? And you're not buying anything else. You need to just put your brakes on and not, like, you're moving too quick for me, right? But what I want to say is this community specifically, you know, Andrew and Ping and a few of the other investors that are in this community, I feel like if you are an investor out there and is really stuck in trying to decide or don't have the resources, yes, there's a lot of things on social media, but if you try to put them all into one piece, you're really going to get confused at the end of the day because you're not going to start because you're looking at what everybody is doing. And that model is not what everybody is. You have to be honest with yourself, sit there and think about what your goals are, what you want to do, and invest in someone that can help you to get there. And personally, I know that I had maybe 90% of the willpower to do this, but with actually surrounding myself with this team, Property Hustlers specifically, has propelled me to not only commit to myself, but to make people proud as part of this process. And that is really so fulfilling because I talk highly about it, not because it's something that should be taken lightly. It's something that honestly, like, I am so friggin' blessed to be here and meet some of the greatest people in this investments community right now that has really helped me, no matter what it is, even a phone call away, even a text message, even a real estate deal. It has nothing to do with investment. I've gotten that. And if you are looking to take that next step in your investment journey, I strongly suggest surround yourself with the right people and let them help you to get you to where you need to be. Because everybody say they can do this, but trust me, if you the more you have people around you that will give you that support and guidance, it would be so crystal clear for you to be successful in real estate. And a lot of times people look at the money and they look at, well, you know, I don't need this because I think I can do this, but you do need this. And you do need to have someone, a coach, a mentor that will walk you through this process, especially if you're still thinking about it or you have some hesitation that you don't know enough. Because trust me, you do know enough to be where you are. You just need someone to take you to that next level. And that's what I wanted to say in close.
I appreciate it.
You know what, Rose? Listen, here's one of the things, and just to touch on that because that's very much appreciated. Like Ping and I and the rest of the team, like Roman, Skylar, and people who are involved, like we really do want to see change in anybody who comes into our community, right? Like we've been in a fortunate position where we're able to receive certain or take advantage of certain liberties that really has been a result of taking action and just getting the ball rolling, because a lot of people are just sitting on the sidelines thinking about it, talking about it, and never actually getting to it. And sometimes they just need somebody in their corner to kind of like help them tighten their thought process along in order to increase that confidence. And by the way, the thing about you, Rose, honestly, is that you're somebody who is willing to bet on themselves. And I think that is one of the things that makes you particularly amazing, both as a real estate investor and as a realtor, because there's a lot of realtors out there who will advise people on all kinds of decisions, but they wouldn't necessarily do it themselves or they haven't done it themselves, but you are doing it. So as somebody who's willing to bet on themselves, honestly, that is what the person that you should be looking for, anybody who's listening should be looking to partner up with, whether it's as an investor or whether you're looking for a realtor. So with that being said, Rose, honestly, how can somebody get in touch with you if they want to work with somebody as amazing as you?
I appreciate that, Andrew. Well, I am on social media at Realtor Mom Rose. You can send me a DM there, and I will be happy to answer any questions you have. Even if you need to get on the phone for us to set up a strategy call, would love to connect with you as well.
Amazing. Great to have you on the show, Rose. We'll leave some information. Talk to you later.
Thank you so much. Take care.